I learned that my nightmare father baby-trapped my estranged mother. Now, he's also using child support to look richer in front of his girlfriend. I learned that my nightmare father baby-trapped my estranged mother. Now, he's also using child support to look richer in front of his girlfriend. When I would ask her about my mother, my grandma painted a picture of a bitter, spiteful, hateful, spoiled, entitled woman. My father told me my mother packed up and left us when I turned 2 years old. I grew up to resent and hate her. That's what my family told me, and I had absolutely no reason to doubt them. A few weeks ago I found her on social media while at my boyfriend's house. And I was so mad. She was out there living her best life as a cook in a Michelin star restaurant. She travels, has a huge apartment, and apparently is married to a gorgeous man. In a fit of rage, I DM'd her cruising her out for abandoning me to live her frivolous life and that karma would come to her. She obviously saw it. Instead of going off on me, she just asked me to meet her and that she felt like I had a right to express my anger to her in person and that she owed me as much. I was starstruck because my father said she never stood for the consequences of her actions. Without telling anyone, I agreed. It was very awkward at the beginning. I kept berating her. I was so angry and I cried a little. She just sat there and took it all in. I then asked her why she abandoned me. She then asked, "Do you really want to know the whole story? It is not nice and you will not like it. I am ready to be the bad guy in your head forever and keep my distance." I just kept pressing her. She told me that my father and she met shortly before ending uni. At that time my mother had said she did not want to stay in uni town. A few months after dating, my father told her that his landlord was evicting him because the apartment was needed for immediate family use. She offered him to stay while he found something else. Months passed and he was not doing anything. Then she got a job offer in another country and she told my father that he could take over her apartment or come with her. They had this huge fight where my mother told him that she was not ready for the type of commitment he wanted. She wanted different things in life than him, and as much as she loved him, they weren't compatible. They stayed living together and then one day she found out she was pregnant. She told me honestly that she was thinking of not having me. She did not feel ready to be a mom at 22 and she did not feel maternal feelings. She said she was already struggling with depression and late diagnosed ADHD. But my father convinced her to have me. He said he would take me because he had a right to me. That he would go after her because that baby was also his. So she had me. She said that the time after birth was really bad. My father was dragging out the legal procedures. He refused to vacate the home. My mother said that while she felt love for me and that there were moments when she felt overjoyed, it was overshadowed by huge waves of suicidal ideation. She was scared that she was going to hurt me. She also showed me some of the court documents of that time that backed up her claims. In the end, she was so desperate that she agreed to stay with my father if he agreed to be the main caretaker. He did, but only half-assed. My mother then told me that it got so bad that she tried to commit suicide around my second birthday after a particularly nasty fight where my father admitted to having tampered with her birth control. She showed me the papers of the involuntary 72-hour commitment and the legal documents where she was found unfit to be a parent. Afterward, I felt nauseous after all that. I would have not believed her, hadn't she brought so much evidence with her. She then asked me what I meant in my message that we were struggling. I told her that we were not exactly rich and that I was struggling to come up with the money to go to university in another city. She was bewildered and asked me what my father had been doing with the monthly payments she was making. I told her that we didn't receive that money. Then she took out another stack of papers. She is sending child support every month. It is almost $3,000 every month. She is court mandated to pay me $1,500. She doubled the payments out of her own will. She doesn't have to pay that amount. She was very concerned about this and told me she would talk to her lawyers ASAP to transfer the money to me directly. In the end, she apologized to me. She is very sorry to have put me through this. She was very sorry for not being stronger and she was very sorry for letting me grow up the way I did. She was crying and I was crying. She then told me to take my time. She would contact me again regarding the payments and that it was up to me if I wanted to see her again. She couldn't be the mother I wanted, but the least she could do is help me with anything that I needed. At home, my father was not there. So I went straight to bed and left early the next morning and am staying with my boyfriend. My whole life is a lie. Update: I learned that my nightmare father baby-trapped my estranged mother. Now, he's also using child support to look richer in front of his girlfriend. My mother spoke with her lawyer and seeing as I am 18 she started the motion to start transferring my child support money. She said that for the time being she would give me $1,500 monthly while she still had to pay my dad the money. As soon as the process is greenlit I'm going to get it all. She also agreed to pay for my matriculation fees as well as for the deposit and first month's rent of an apartment in my uni town so that I could be as independent as possible. For now, I have only sent in my applications a couple of weeks ago, so I should get any news on that front by September. We decided that confronting my father was not a good idea. For neither of us. So we decided to tell my father that my boyfriend's parents invited me on vacation. He did tell me that I had to help him with a million things before leaving again. So I am already seeing a fight on the horizon. But I have managed to get all my important documents and open a bank account, thanks to my aunt's help. So on Thursday, I am officially leaving for 2 weeks and I pray things to get resolved beforehand. I am taking all the important stuff with me already in case things go south fast. The Wednesday night, the night before I left, my father picked up a fight with me for not taking his car for an oil change. He called me everything under the sun. Saying I am selfish and a brat, that he raised me better. He then had my grandmother come and say how disappointed they were. That I was clearly not mature enough to leave for a holiday, let alone move away for university. They held me awake till 4 a.m. under the guise of a family meeting, which was basically just a reprimanding session of all I had done wrong in my life. And to be honest, I was demoralized. I was ugly, crying and feeling awful. Thankfully my boyfriend called because I had not answered several texts of his. He helped me transport all my stuff while my father was sleeping. And I left without telling him bye. He texted me around 1 p.m. and my father was acting like everything was normal. So the 2 weeks passed very quickly. I got a mail that I got into a university that has a very good program for political science. So I accepted and put myself on the waiting list for university accommodation. Then poop blew up. My mother suddenly stopped giving my father half the money. So she was only paying what she was legally obligated to pay. My father was losing it. He began calling, screaming at me to come home at once. Then calling me crying to tell me that the bitch of my mother had reappeared and was suing him, and now we did not have enough money to pay for the mortgage. I called my mother to ask if she was actually suing him. She said no and said that she had just gone through the courts to start paying me directly instead of my father, which was granted. Then my grandma started texting me, saying I had to come home right away because my father had had a cardiac arrest. Obviously, I went back home with my boyfriend. Only to find our house in literal shambles. There were beer cans, string liquor stuff, and cigarettes everywhere. Apparently when I left my father decided to have a huge party. He invited all these friends that he made in fancy bars. I know that because the lady that was in the hospital with my dad, his girlfriend apparently. She did not know about me, she kept talking about our house as his summer residence. Apparently my father would take the $3,000 and spend them almost fully on appearing to be richer. He had bought some clothing pieces that were high quality. He would hang out in these fancy hotel sky lounges where he met his girlfriend. Then would take her and her friends out to expensive restaurants and clubs. She did not fully admit it but insinuated that they did coke often during those outings. Much like the party that leads my dad to overdose. I thanked her and told her that the money was not my father's and she had been lied to. She stayed till my father came to and we could bring him home. Which is when she dumped him. And then I broke it to him. I was leaving. He lost his poop and he punched me. He broke my nose, man. I was really afraid though. He was not even fully recovered. In the hospital, I told the nurse how it happened and the police got involved. My mother took me in the very next day. She is helping me with all the legal things regarding my father. She helped me move out and helped me move cities. It all happened very, very fast.